Okay, Luciano, welcome to Neo4j's online meetup. Thanks a lot for offering to present today, and I'm quite excited and happy because I think many people have struggled in the past when using databases in general, but also Neo4j that there's quite a lot of boilerplate that you have to write, especially for finding simple objects, creating objects, updating objects, deleting objects, and so on. So all the CRUD operations. And I think while each database is really good when you use like the native query language for its core operations, for its really complex operations like accommodations in a graph and so on. For all the basic operations, it's really nice to have something that takes the work on and does all the boilerplate for you. So Luciano, perhaps you can talk a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you came across, working in JavaScript and working with Neo4j, and how you got started with Neo.
Oh, okay. Hi everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you all for the opportunity. So I'm a iOS developer. I'm mobile developer, but also backend developer. So that's how I got to JavaScript and Node.js and stuff. But primarily, I'm an iOS developer, and I cannot see the screen. But actually, I came up in JavaScript at work. Initially with MongoDB and all the mean stack. I think that's how they call it. Mongo, Angular, JavaScript, and something like that. I think how I got to Neo4j was actually I had a project. As iOS developer, I develop apps. So I had these little personal projects that I want to do. So I started a little bit with Java applications and SQL databases. So it started to get a little complex. So I decided to look for another technologies, study a little bit about databases, how to improve my queries, and that's how I got to come across Neo4j. So was a social network, some relations, and I start to have some trouble with SQL because the queries was a little not performant, a little confused. The queries was really long. So that's how I came with Neo4j to start this project and develop this backend for my little app. Can you hear?
Yeah. So Luciano, can you perhaps start sharing the screen so we can see your presentation as well?
Okay. Start sharing. That's
Sorry,
myself.
click it again. I think you were sharing, but you were sharing the wrong screen, perhaps. Yeah,
So that's my presentation. I already tell who am I. So how I came across Neo4j? I already said it was about my app. I needed something more powerful than SQL for relations. So that's how I find Neo4j. Why Neo4j was because the concept of graphs and the learning curve of the cipher, how did they work with performant queries when we have too much relations. That's what I found beautiful of Neo4j. So that's why I chose it to use. in my project. So the hardest things about work with came from SQL to Neo4j was understand the concepts of a graph database. Stop to thinking in tables, modeling, define schemas, tables. That's how I work when I work with SQL. So change this mental thinking was one of the hardest things to do.
What helped you with this change? Did you have anything that helped you with kind of understanding and thinking?
Actually, the cipher style was make a lot more sense. So actually, also the Neo4j tool, where I could see the graphs interact with each other and the relations. So that's how I start to understand things. Most the tool, because it shows you a visual feedback about the graphs. It was a little easier.
Yeah, so the Neo4j browser is a really nice developer workbench. I think the same. So it makes it easy to write Cypher, especially now with the auto completion, and then the visualization that you can interact with, but then you can also query it then.
The visualization for me was the main thing to start to understand.
Did you also start kind of using more whiteboards to kind of develop your model and discuss and think about the things that you were building? Because I found this quite helpful just to use whiteboards to model my graph and then know when I'm importing data where to put which kind of data and so on.
Actually, yes. I used to do a lot of how can I say UML class diagrams to understand my models. So I started to take this class model, this class diagrams, and trying to translate it to graphs to see how it was transforming and how the class diagram will start to stay in graphs. How this transition. So yes. Next slide. The easier things. Of course, query relations without a bunch of table joins is awesome. Is that the word? Awesome.
Thank you.
And one of the main things is I came from SQL. I worked with SQL, with Java and Hibernate and some of the stuff. Then, when I started with Node.js, I started with Mongo, as I think 90% of the developers would start with JavaScript, Node.js with Mongo. So,
what driver did you use for Mongo for JavaScript?
Mongo for JavaScript, I use Mongoose.
Mongoose.
Yes, the common one. So, one of the main things that I like at Mongo was the schemaless flexibility. So do you not have the tables defined, DDLs, so as SQL has. So Mongo was not so good with relationships. That's the last point of Mongo. So when I found Neo4j, I found a powerful tool where I can have the power of relations with flexibility of schemaless. So this for me was awesome. This was one of the best things that I find in Neo4j.
Cool.
So the learning curve of Cypher, since I work a lot with SQL, actually also in college we have some classes of SQL. So the learning curve of Cypher was really easier because a lot of things are really alike in Cypher and SQL. So the learning curve was a little easier.
Were there any specific resources that you used to learn Cypher? Was there anything that helped you a lot with learning the Cypher syntax and how to write Cypher queries and so on?
Basically two main things. First one was the Neo4j documentation. They have a lot of tutorials of Cypher. How can I say it? The Cypher references. The word is
Yeah,
the
the reference part.
the reference. So it's helping a lot. Second thing was YouTube videos, including one where Mark did some turning your Cypher query, I think, where he and other person, I don't remember who it was, but they show how turning your Cypher, how index works, how you can put labels to improve the query and the hits. So those videos of the YouTube helped me a lot. That was the main things.
Cool.
So I think that's it. The learning from SQL, from Mongo, from graphs. That's cool. That was cool.
And so this video also helped you with learning how to optimize a Cypher query as well with profile and explain.
Profile explain. That's a great video. Helped me a lot.
Okay, cool.
So the big question: why Node.js? So I actually started on college with Java and SQL, Hibernate, those things, and one time I came up that I started thinking that Java was not really fits for my needs at the projects I was building. Java was not so good in terms of timing of developer. And then also, I want to learn something new. So Node.js, all this hype in Node, everybody's using JavaScript on backend, performance is good. So that's the way I start with Node.js. So I started about a year ago, with Node. I still develop till today. I actually still code Java at the backend, depending on the project, depending on the needs. Actually, there's some things that I miss in JavaScript that I had in other language. But basically, the main reason for this was the new language and the hype of the community.
Do you use JavaScript and Node.js also for your work, or is it mostly for private projects?
Yes, actually, less than in my work, I'm primarily an iOS developer. Then I use Swift to build apps. So, but we have backend development too. So I develop with JavaScript and Mongo, and this stack, the mean stack, basically at work. But that's it.
So you had JavaScript, and then you wanted to use Neo4j with JavaScript, right?
Yes, that's how I came across the official drive. Was the first thing I tried when I start to do a little test with Neo4j and JavaScript. Simple samples, little applications to understand how it works. That's I use the official JavaScript drive.
How well did it work for you?
I did not get it.
How well did it work for you, the JavaScript driver? Did it work well for you?
No, it was good. I didn't have much problems. Was how, understanding the cipher, understanding how it communicates, how uh, things work with JavaScript, and how the driver responds to my queries. Basically, was that I did with the official drive. Actually, it's really good. It's a really good drive. So next thing, um, after I tried the driver, now talking about other libraries, I searching in a section of Neo4j. I think Neo4j site. Uh, I actually found a section where they list some frameworks that we can use with JavaScript, some libraries. So I take a look at it. I found some good ones, some not so good. So I start with one of them. But the main problem that I have with those, maybe I not research so much, take one that is not so good, but major of them was unmaintained. The last commit on GitHub was 11 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago. So I choose the one who's actually they was maintaining and start with that. So when I need some functionality that I was developing in my personal project, I see that this framework doesn't have this. I create a fork, send a pull request, and all the process in the open source. So until now, they didn't stop maintaining this library. So till the time I started OGMNeo. So I decided to build my own and take this challenge to try to understand a little more from of Neo4j, how it works, and I think developing one abstraction layer OGM was an opportunity to learn more and learn how things work, and mainly to use in my project, to fit my needs in my personal project. That's why I start to build OGMNeo. Actually, it starts with ORMNeo, like object relation mapping, because I didn't understand at the time that these concepts OGM, ORM, ODM about documents, and actually it was a mistake. I was still learning. Uh, Somebody said to me, "Oh, this is not ORM, this is OGM, object graph in our relation."
Yeah.
So I changed the name, was the beginning. But that's the main reason, to fit my needs in my project and to learn some more of Neo4j.
Yeah, it's a good exercise, right?
Yes, I learned a lot while developing. There's actually caused some bugs, but it's a good experience. So let me explain some features. First, what is OGMNeo? Actually, it's an abstraction layer on top of the official driver. I still use the official driver on behind, so connect and run Cypher. But OGMNeo is just a layer to abstract some common things like create, update, deleting, query, count, nodes, index, relations, all this stuff. It was just basically a framework to build the query, programmatically build the query, and mapping the results as literal objects in JavaScript. So you don't need to run the cipher to create this node. You need just have the object, pass the label, and create it itself.
Yeah.
Same thing for updating, deleting, query. We have some query builder that we still developing this query mechanism, but we evolve. We start really not so good, but it's a lot better now. I'll show you in the slides, the next slides.
Yeah. And then also in the demo later. Yeah.
Yes. So a big challenge for me was JavaScript itself. When as I say, I came from the Java. I work every day with Swift. That was a strong typed language that Apple used to develop apps. So use JavaScript, as you can see in the image on the slide, is a little tough when you try to define a closed API, let's say that, where you have to tell the user you have to pass this type of value or the method doesn't work. So you have to do a lot of runtime checks, the type, the value, if the value is this type, if not, it's not gonna work. So you have to do this at runtime and manually because the JavaScript itself can't help with that. That was one of the main challenges that I have with JavaScript. As you can see in the example, the function warehouse receives as a parameter one value that always has to be of certain type, and if not, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's one of the main problems that I have with JavaScript.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem with a dynamic language, right? So that you have to do all the checks at runtime instead of at compile time.
Yes, it's actually have some good things about it, but it has some problems. It's how other problem was the concept of classes. That's not real classes and not having types. That's actually a little confusing. It make mapping not look like mapping. So in OGMNeo, for example, we don't take the object and map it into a class type like person, for example. We take the result of query, the node, and transform it into a literal object. a little JavaScript object, which is not actually a class of type person, for example. That makes the mapping not a really mapping, a real mapping, but we try to abstract that as easy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, for the end user, it has to be easy, even if the library has to do a lot of work. You still have to make it easy for the end user, right?
Exactly. Another problem that we have was the concept of public and private that in JavaScript is a little confusing. So a lot of the private APIs in Neo4j was not so private because the limitations of JavaScript and ECMA 6 and something like that. So actually,
But then you
we
have
try
documentation for API, right? So I mean, you use as an API what's documented as an API and not the other things, right? Or in JavaScript.
some documentation for the library. That's how you ask.
No, I said usually in JavaScript you use as the API what's documented as an API and not the functions that you just find. I mean, usually there's an API documentation for how to use a library, right?
Yes, yes. But what I mean is you can't forbid the user to use. You
No.
can. It's really hard.
Yeah, you don't, but you in JavaScript you also don't have to protect the user too much because they know that they are not supposed to use this stuff, right? Or
Yes, every JavaScript developer knows the limits. So one of other things that other languages has and JavaScript don't that makes me think about JavaScript was interfaces or protocols for those who have Swift as a language. Was really important to me. I use it a lot in other languages, interfaces, protocols to define behaviors on the class functions. And when I came to JavaScript, this felt a little missing.
yeah,
So was a little harder to think an API without the power of interfaces. This was a little hard to me. Other thing, building the cipher is as a let the library easier to the end user. Because I did mainly the OGMNeo from a need of mine, of my personal project, I actually did a lot of changes while I'm developing OGMNeo and developing my personal project. So I have some problem, I think, oh, that's cool. That's not the better way that fits in those applications. So I get back to OGMNeo, change it, get back to my project, test a little more, using a real situation in the real project to see how I can improve the API to be better to the end user.
yeah, that's good. But it's also a challenge, right? Because after you publish the API or the library, you have to be more stable. So you have to kind of make sure that at some point you say, now I have a published API, now it's more stable than before, right?
Yes, that's the main reason that I haven't yet published in 1.0 version. I still on
Yeah.
0.4. So I incremented in minor versions, let's say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm still working on change. There's a slide ahead that shows exactly how things are changing in the versions that follows. So it's really a challenge.
Okay, cool.
One of the other problems is actually always testing which type is this value. This value is a string, so I have to put how I say quotes, single quotes. So this type is a number, so I don't have to put quotes. So this type is an array, don't use quotes. So this type is a date, yeah, something like that. On the query builder, it's a little hard to.
Yeah, because you can pass in any kind of object to the query builder, right? So then you have to really decide which ones you can work with and which ones you can't work with, right? In the different places.
Exactly. So.
Okay, cool.
The challenge, as I say, was build the library while I'm learning. So it's actually it caused some little mistake because lack of information, lack of knowledge about Neo4j. As an example, the ORM new naming, as I didn't know about objecting graph mapping, so I did objecting relation mapping as a name. That was a mistake because of lack of knowledge. I didn't know about those things when I start, so the first thing that came to my mind was ORM, that's objection relation. So I have a lot of situations where I have done some stuff and then I have to go back because it was not the better way. I didn't know about those features in Neo4j. So I learned, then I back to the implementation and change it to fit to make it better with the new thing that I learned. So that's actually a lot of learning and go back to fix what you did wrong.
Okay, cool. So can you show us some code, what it looks like when you use the library, and also kind of certain things within the library that you
Yes. Let's go back to the library. This is a project. I actually use VS Code, as most of JavaScript developers know about that. The library is structured about tests, docs, and the lib code itself. The main features are the main class where you connect to Neo4j. I use ECMAScript 6. So we have the little concept of classes, the static functions, things like that. Or optional default values. So the main classes was used to connect. I will show later some samples, then you can see how it works really. The main classes are Node, where you have some abstraction functions. This is what I marked here was the docs that are generated by JS docs library. So we have to create nodes passing a literal object. But the main thing is I take the OGMNeo, take these literal objects and these parameters and build the Cypher query on top of that. That's the main functionality of the main purpose of the OGMNeo. Is to take these functions and generate ciphers and queries and then mapping the results to the end user.
Yeah.
You can create, update many I will show the query object. The query object is basically, for those who know the builder design pattern, it's basically building a query with functions, where I have the where, that's the clause for filter, where in Cypher, really. The limit functions, the on the by, desk, and as, then things like which properties that I have to return. Then on top of that, we build the cipher that we will execute, and after that, let's get back to the function.
Do you use your own query builder library also within the OGM itself?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Something's like, for example, insert the
Because here it looks like just plain text in there, right?
Oh, here,
yeah.
In some methods, yes, but actually in others, not.
Okay, cool.
Some example aqui, here. In find method, we have the query, and we generate on the query cipher. This is
I mean, this is passing through. What I find interesting are two things. When you map back the data from Neo4j to the JavaScript objects, do you do you specify with the classes what you want to map back, and how do you handle things like relationships and stuff like that? Do you also map them back correctly so that you don't get just a single object, but you get an object and it's referenced other objects as well back if you're loading an object. So for instance, you're loading a blog post, and then you also want to get back the tags of the blog post and the author of the blog post in one go. Do you support something like this, that you get not just one object map back, but also the neighbors that belong to this class as well?
Still more or less. We have actually today one relation mechanism that I will show now, but it's still one work in progress. Example, I will show you how you relate those nodes, two nodes. We have relate method, where you pass the node ID, the type of the relation, and the other node ID, with optional properties and optional unique parameter. So that's the way we build the relation. So when I query the relationships, as an example, we have a person with a lot of posts, for example. We have the node person that we query. We have these parameters, these find nodes. Example, I have a person who writes poems. This person, I have passed this person as a parameter in the query. Later I'll show how to do the query. And then I specify if I want the start nodes of the relations or the end nodes of the relations. So we actually have to do a query for the person, and then a query for the relation or related nodes based on a query object. Let me show how you can build a query relation, a query on relations, or a query on. Here in tests we have some query relation test. So here, let me see if I find. Okay, here. We actually have two nodes that are related. This second one, we use to current. So I want to build a query on the relation where the name of the relation is related to. Then where the start node is node ID 1, the end node is node ID 2. The where clause on the relation properties was property equals C, and I want to return on the end node just the name. So that's ordered by descending by property, uh, limited to 20 nodes. That's how I find the nodes related to this query. And just as you can see on this parameter, I just want to be returning the end nodes of the relation. So I will just receive the node 2 types of objects. And that's how we build this query to find nodes related to other nodes. We actually can return both. Here is a method that return both. I will show a little better here on the demo, on the GitHub repository. So here we have an example, the same example, where you will return the relation nodes or populated. The defined relations will return just the relation properties and names and IDs to reference the end and start node. The populated will return both properties of uh, the relation node, the start node, and the end node. That's how it's working now. I'm still working on improve the design
Hey, sorry, everyone. It seems that we lost Luciano. Luciano, can you hear us again?
I can hear. I had a little problem with the internet connection.
Okay, cool. But now you're back.
Now you're back. I don't know where it starts, so I didn't know what I say.
Yeah, you can just continue. I think you can just continue.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, so you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I
have Luciano, because you don't have too much time left, and you also wanted to show the demo and talk about GraphQL and Neo4j. I got a question from Adam, who is asking if you are planning to also build something like the interface that Mongoose has and features like validation and eager loading and things like that into the OGMNeo library as well.
I still didn't think about that, but that was a really good suggestion.
Okay, cool. I had one more question, which was about transaction management. I saw that in some places you start your own transactions. Can the user also start their own transactions, or is this all handled by the OGM?
The OGM actually handles all the transactions. All the operations was done in a single transaction. That is what committed and done.
When my question is around when a user has a more complex operation that changes like 5 nodes and 10 relationships or something like that, and they want this whole operation to either be one transaction that either succeeds completely or fails completely. Is there anything that they can do to do this? So kind of to
Actually, in OGMNeo itself, is still not. But you still have the instance on the OGMNeo connection that the instance of the Neo4j driver. So with the driver, you can execute Cipher with all these features and create your transactions, and so.
Okay, because I think that's a quite important feature for an OGM, because usually a business transaction is much larger than just a changing of a single node or a single relationship, and you really need to have the ability as a user to say, all these operations here that I'm doing now are executed in one transaction, because I don't want just half of my data updated or half of my data just deleted or something like that. So that's, I think, something that would be really important to add as well in general.
So cool. Let's go to the demo.
Yeah, let's go to the demo.
I did a simple demo where the user have a little one or more posts. So let's run. This is the code of the demo where I can show you the layers. We have a business, DAO, and model classes. Let's run it. I use Swagger as an API definition to show. Actually, I have some localhost query user. Is that what users? A little GraphQL endpoint that I will show you later. So first, we have the register, where I can register a user. Second user 2. So I registered this user running on the Neo4j. So if you go back to the database.
Yeah. Luciano, are you still there? Hello? So it seems you lost Luciano again. Let's see if he comes back. Otherwise, you can also run the demo yourself. So he also put it onto the on his GitHub account, and if I put also the links to his GitHub account and the demo and the library into the comments of the online meetup. So if you want to have a look yourself and try it out, then you can do it from there. Hey, Luciano, are you back?
I'm sorry, again, internet connection problems. Let's get back to the demo. So I registered the second user. So
can you share your screen again, Luciano?
What?
Can you share your screen?
Yes. Share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
So, yes, I registered the second user, the user is here. So let's create post from this user. Post my post. So we have a post now. Let's query this user and these users and this post. The user 0 has no post, and the user 1 has one post. So we can see now how the user has the relations, the right, the post. Here is the user, here is this post. Dates are actually we work with timestamps to store dates.
Yeah.
I still working on that. I did a little research on how to work with dates in Neo4j.
Yeah. Do you
So
convert them to JavaScript dates when you load the data as well, or?
yes, I converted.
The object IDs that you show in this that are in the Swagger UI, are these the node IDs of Neo4j, or is this something that you generate separately?
It's actually the Neo4j ID.
Okay, cool.
So that's it. We can delete user, update the user. Let's do this.
Will it also delete all the posts of the user if you delete user 1?
Actually not. It's still not. But
okay. That would be
it's a
part of the application that has to make sure that with a user also all their related data is deleted, right?
Yeah. As an example, the user was the user 1. If I want to delete the user 1, actually I receive a message.
Cool.
I can delete because it has relations.
Okay.
So if I delete the relation of user 1 equals 2, this was deleted. So now I can delete the user 1 because it has no relations.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's basically that, a simple demo how to use. It's actually on GitHub on OGMNeo demo if you guys want to take a look after.
Yeah.
And as a bonus, I will show you the same queries made on GraphQL endpoint. It's where I have, let me see, query. I want users. I want the object ID, the name of the user, the email of the user, the posts, and I want just the post text. So as I deleted the second user, let me create another one.
You can just create a post for user 0, right? That would be good enough.
Create a post from user 0. I have a post now. Running GraphQL query. I have the post, my post from user 0. Now I can use, let me see, the date. And that's it. Actually,
can you show the code for the demo as well? That kind of does the GraphQL. So the GraphQL, you presume you use the JavaScript GraphQL library, and then.
Yes, I use the default GraphQL API for JavaScript with the Express GraphQL. That's Express GraphQL library that makes the queries possible through HTTP endpoint. So this is the basic. We have a model and post and user. The part of GraphQL is creating the schemas, the GraphQL schemas, based on the user and the post. So we have these two separated schemas, then we join them here. For example, I create the post schema first, then I create the user schema with all properties, and one of these properties is a GraphQL list containing the post schema that I created before. So we have this connection between those two.
Yeah.
Then, using the Express GraphQL, we created an HTTP endpoint to do this, where we have this schema of a list of users. They can access it to this property. So on the resolve method, we have called the DAO layer .all that goes back to the OGMNeo query. Then I query the node of type user, all the nodes of type user, and use OGMNeo node to find those nodes. Then I map it to, actually, as I say, there's literal objects that the OGMNeo work with, but I actually use DTO to transform it to my actual objects that are ECMAScript 6 classes. I still thinking about do it directly on the OGM, but I think it's not right for now. But
why do you think that you need a separate DTO? I mean, after all, both the user and the DTO both carry the same data, right?
It's because of encapsulation. Maybe one day I wake up and decide to change everything in the application to another database. So the only layer I have to change is the DTO and the DAO layer. The rest of the application, the endpoints, the hooks, the business rules, all of that will stay working with the models that I created in DTO. So I will not have to change all the application just because I changed the database for some services or some models. It's basically just about that. Um, but
Cool.
I think that's the GraphQL. That's the DTOs, where I transform a literal object to actual class object. And that's the express holds, where we have those endpoints where we use to show in the demo.
Yeah, cool. So what's your plan for OGMNeo going forward? What are the things that you want to add to it?
Actually, I have some things in mind to have something like support constraints creation. We already support index creations to OGMNeo. Something like improve those existing APIs, like handle transactions, handle many operations into a transaction context. And also, we are expecting some suggestions from the community, some contributions, some people with will to contribute to become better.
On the OGM, so in terms of reading and writing data, so how many 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 objects you can write per second, and how many you can read per second from the database with the OGM?
It's still not. What I do was actually, as I say, I saw the video about tuning cipher, and what I do was make the cipher builder build the cipher with more performance we can, but nothing but that.
Okay. Cool. Then thank you a lot. Is there anything that you want to add at the end? Otherwise, I would.
I think not.
Okay, cool.
At least thank you all for the opportunity to show the OGMNeo in this meetup. It was a great experience to me, and I really like to thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Luciano. That was really nice. So I hope you get some good feedback for the OGM and some good ideas on how to extend it and improve it as well. Thanks a lot, everyone, for watching. Going forward, we have a number of meetups planned for the next month. So from Bitcoins with Greg Walker on July 6th to natural language processing and understanding with Python and Neo4j with Don. Then on July 13th, on July 19th, Nigel will talk about the Neo4j bold drivers in general. So you know that we have 4 official drivers for Java, JavaScript, as we've seen today, for .NET and for Python. And we also have a number of really cool drivers contributed by the community for PHP, for Haskell, for instance, for Elixir, for Swift, and so on. So there will be a meetup around this on July 19th. And then on the 27th, Nick will talk about what would it look like if you take a full corporate registry or full corporate network of a whole country and put it into a graph database, and what can you do with that? So thanks a lot for your time and for watching, and we'll put this video online as well, and then you can also watch it later or show it to people. As I said, the links to the repository are on the online meetup, but you can also find them if you go to Luciano's GitHub page, and you find the OGM there with the documentation and the README, and also the demo as you've seen here in his repositories.
I will post in the comments the links for those repositories.
Yeah, I put the links there as well. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone, and have a good day or good afternoon, and see you next time.
Thank you a lot.
Bye.
See you next time. Thanks.